Okay, well, moving on now, we have Mr. Shina Fagbero Byron, who joins us next. He's a development expert to give us perspective on some of these things happening so fast they do. Morning, thank you for coming on today.
How are you? Good morning.
I mean, I almost lost touch this morning when I got up, but it's interesting how I explain. I would like to hear from you, from what you've seen so far. Let's start with the screening.
Yes.
There will be none today, by the way, because who knows, whatever reason. But tomorrow, they're expected to convene. What you've seen so far, impressed or not?
Well, I think Nigeria is slowly but surely maturing. If you compare this particular set of screenings with previous ones, you'll discover that there is, I mean, this is a more challenging screening than we've had before. The members of the public are more engaged with it. The ministerial nominees themselves are not going there obviously taking anything for granted. Many of them are actually prepared for some of the questions that they will be asked, because some of these questions were in the public domain before they were they were appointed ministers. And yes, there would be one or two instances where people would be asked to take a bow and leave. I mean, it's only human. I mean, the reputation of some people sort of speaks quite a bit for them. And in any case, ministerial nomination and ministerial performance, although it is predicated on your past record, it is principally and fundamentally in expectation what you will do next after. So people tend to, you know, it's not number one. It's, yes, there's an element of a reward system, but there is also the element that, you know, you're expecting that this person in this position, as you know, a minister's job principally is to provide guidance for sectors, guidance for the ministry, the ability to be able to make real the president's, you know, direction, the government policy, and act as that bridge between policy formulation and policy implementation.
You know, this is your turf. Did you see some questions coming from that direction that will best show that this person, man or woman, is capable of giving that direction in such ministries?
Well, in the first place, their comportment and their ability to answer the questions. How willing are they to be responsive and to be accountable? That is an indicator. Now, when you get to become a minister or you are in any public position, everything that you anticipate prior to the time that you are there, slight changes. So the real test for the ministers is when they get there. You follow me? The only thing I was slightly disappointed with is the fact that no one asked any questions on the gender issue. I mean, what was the ministers? What are their plans to ensure you know, more social inclusion? You see, because one of the fundamental issues in Nigeria, and one of the things that Buhari said that he was going to drive, which quite a number, bought into, including myself, was the fact that you're going to create a Nigeria where, you know, so to speak, almost borrowing the same cliche from the Sustainable Development Goals, is that no one will be left behind. And in Nigeria, we know principally that we have a grave issue when it comes to social inclusion, young people and women, you know, not included in government. So I would have expected some pointed questions. The second thing is that I didn't see some of the female senators who were there actually asking some questions, particularly on health and education and human development and things like that. But having said, you know, I mean, you could understand and appreciate that, you know, a lot of things happen in the heat of the moment. People who are actually interested in the softer side, or what I mean the softer side, the other skills of the ministerial nominees. Many of them were put on the defensive because there were several allegations on several of them before they got in.
Okay, let me even bring this thing, this question at this point. Some said, I mean, we spoke to a lawyer who also said that, well, he cited section, I think 147.6, that at the end of 21 working days, if they don't screen the rest of them, they automatically become ministers. That's someone just watching behind the scenes and then looking at the drama as it's unfolding.
Yes.
What do you think of that clause, that section?
Well, if the section truly is, and right now I don't have it on the finger of my tip, but if that section truly exists, yes. The president has quite a bit of enormous powers. And the fact that he takes the ministers before the Senate is, yes, it's obligatory at the same time, but, you know, and it's also out of respect for the senators. If that section exists in the manner which it exists and in the context which is being laid out, then, you know, it might be one of the sections that we may want to take another look at. And the issue is that every single officer who is of ministerial level, the principal responsibility is to be accountable to the Nigerian people. And the very first exercise in demonstrating accountability is by going before the Senate to tell them what you have and what you need to do. You know, I mean, regardless of whether the portfolios were given beforehand or not, which is another issue of contention about portfolios being given. That one is neither here nor there.
Why do you think we need to look at it again? Because, I mean, I think that the people who put it there, because it does exist, say that 21 working days should be sufficient time for them to be able to make their returns.
Everything is subject to review. Everything is subject to review. When you see something and you apply it and you decide or you see that there could be a lacuna or a nuisance, then you may want to visit it again.
Pardon me. Let me just quickly jump on and get to Barrister Moyo Shere Onigbanjo, SAN, to just give his perspective on this section. Morning, sir, and thank you for joining us today. Could you just, let's get your impression of this clause, because many who are giving different opinions about it saying, no, that is not exactly what the case is. First of all, could you tell us what your understanding is of that section of the law?
Good morning, Chamberlain. Section 147, subsection 6 of the Constitution, to my mind, overrides the powers of the Senate to confirm nominees for ministerial positions by the President. But it only overrides in a situation where, after 21 working days of the nomination to the Senate fails to make any returns to the President. So, in that situation, if that situation occurs after 21 working days and the Senate does not get back to the President, according to that section, the appointment to the office of minister is deemed to have been made. So that's the simple interpretation of section 147(6).
Okay, let me bring in this part. What if the Senate don't get back to the President, and then you have all of those ministers having been listed to be screened on certain days? In other words, they started the process. Will it still be interpreted as though they didn't get back to this President and then they've been deemed to have been confirmed?
You see, what this means is that, look, the Senate has 21 working days to get back to the President. So whatever they're going to do, whether they want to schedule, 3 screenings a day, they have to just make sure that the process is completed within 21 working days. Otherwise, in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, the minister or ministers will be deemed to have been appointed. But, let me add the rider there, right?
Okay.
The Senate can, under this provision, within that 21 working days, refuse to confirm. So, where within the 21 working days, they get back to the presidency and say, well, in respect of this particular minister or ministers, we do not confirm them. So that it ends there. The provision only applies where there is no return whatsoever by the Senate. That is when the appointment can be deemed to have been made.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Moyo Shere Onigbanjo.